Right. Welcome to podcast number 3 with Shannon Reid.
Awesome.
At Northside of the Hive. It's nice to meet you. Nice to meet you do this.
Thanks for the opportunity.
So we've done the 2 interviews with Natty and with Boston. So pretty much the interview is more just asking you. It's probably interest in what got you into yoga. Like there definitely seems to be obviously a theme where I'm interviewing people at the moment who are yoga teachers. So probably the easiest way to lean it in is what got you into yoga.
Yeah, it's a cool one. It's like broken into 2 parts, that story. The first one, initially I was training at the gym a lot, and the gym offered free yoga classes. So at the beginning I wasn't that interested, but I started getting a few injuries. My mates were doing it, so I'm like, I'll check it out. And sure, I started doing it, started feeling good in the body, and maybe once, twice a week I'd go and do these yoga classes, and that continued for a few years. So that stage was like the whole, just for the physical attributes of practicing, getting the flexibility and bits and pieces like that. Later on, when I had a relationship start to break down and some other things started popping up, and it was actually my ex who suggested you should sign up and do yoga somewhere.
Oh, really?
Like, I'll get into that. And from that point on, it was, multiple times a week. Then I started going twice a day, and then
You just get full addicted.
yeah, then like maybe I should look into teacher training and go a little bit further.
Very good, very good. So obviously, like, what was the benefit? Like, what was it that made you keep going? Because obviously, like it probably sounds like you got an addictive personality. Yeah, so it's kind of like you got into it, and then you really got into it, but then obviously, like any sport or anything you get into, there's something about it that you really liked. Like, what was it?
It was probably just the ability to just start exploring more of what was inside of me, my thoughts, emotions, things that I'm holding on to, especially in teacher training, as you know, that starts getting bored up and like, okay, you've got to deal with this now. That's been buried for a long time. And that side, and I think that's what really gets me hooked. It's more about developing myself, growing as a person. Yeah.
And what do you think? Like when you did your YTT, you said like it brought a lot of stuff up. What were the elements during the YTT? Like what were the things that you found brought stuff up? Because obviously you have asana practice, which most people, we see yoga and we see people stretching, we see people doing certain poses or certain balances. And I mean, in some ways they can bring stuff up to people. You get someone in half pigeon and they start bawling their eyes out because there's something going on with emotional tension held in their hips or something. But what would you say during the YTT, what were the things that brought stuff up? Like why were things brought up?
So before the training, if you asked me to stand in front of a room of people and guide them through a class or just talk about anything, I wasn't scared about public speaking, but being that sort of almost like you could say center of attention for that period of time, it's terrifying, and that boundary started getting broken down.
Yeah, for sure.
It's not so bad. Teaching as well, the classes are generally theme around things that I'm dealing with in the week, in my life, and it gives me time to explore that and share it with people, maybe offer them something to explore as well themselves. So other things I was breaking down, all personality sort of things. I was always so reserved, kept to myself, didn't share a lot, and kept everything bottled up, and instead of dealing with it, I'd actually just stay busy all the time. The busier I was, the less I had to think. But now, more time to dive into that, stop just covering it over and ignoring it.
So when you say like, your theme classes or things like during the week, so like you got an example of maybe, like say you had certain experiences the week before and then you theme some of the classes the following week. Like what would you do?
Yeah, that can be anything. Probably the best one to talk about would be this week, where I was sitting in class, sitting at work, just researching. I think I was noticing the tight in the hips. I'm like, just like research, the hip flexors, and started reading about the psoas, and then realized, okay, I'm in this contracted position for 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. Like, all right, this is what's going on. I need to share this now that we're in the classes. So
And for a lot of people, it's go. It's what's going.
yes, yeah.
And a lot of people, it's like, I'd say, it's, if you said there was I'd say like, this is shut down, and this is shut down. Like, and this is like this. It's like,
yeah, well, I actually had a joke with that with my friend saying, yeah, my class is always about the hips and the heart. And I'm like, oh, yeah, that's me, hunched over, tight hips. I'm like, yeah, good, yeah. That's why I want to open them all the time.
Yeah.
Explore that.
Yeah, definitely. I think for sure though, like if I used to work as a personal trainer and for physios and things like that and teaching Pilates years ago, and the big one you see though is like you can see, like I'd say I'm similar, like I tend to always work around, especially like this, just a lot of that, because it's just kind of like you think about stress, you think about people like driving, or like you said, like sitting or desk bound, or people who are overweight. It's like, it's just everything is sort of like drawing themselves down.
Yep.
So where did you do, when you did your teacher training, where did you end up doing it? Why did you pick the place that you did?
Yeah, I asked questions for a while in the lead up, just asking other teachers for their advice, and I picked a few places overseas, and I had a friend say you should just practice at the studio where you plan to do your training first and get the vibe for it. And just convenience, there was a studio in Miranda, Ohio.
Yep.
I was able to go up there every weekend and just do a few of their classes, and something about the place, they're so friendly. The two owners just welcoming, heaps of knowledge, and after the training, so glad I did it there because
No, I have heard it's a very good place to do it. And what was like the style, like what yoga style did they teach?
So they are basically like your power vinyasa based on, they have a little bit of an association with power living, who's now taken over the studio where I did the training.
We did actually, that's right.
Yeah.
And what was it about, like their style of teaching and the style of classes? Like what did you like? Like you said, you're going up there and going to the classes, and you're getting a feel for why you want to go there. People were really friendly, but like what was it about the structure of the classes? Because obviously, like when we talk about yoga, it's pretty broad, so like, most of us have had certain experiences of yoga, but I guess for a lot of people sometimes they haven't been exposed to a lot of other types of yoga. Yep. So what was it about like the yoga? Like what was it that you enjoyed?
Yeah, I probably got carried away just in the excitement of going somewhere else. Most of my yoga experiences was around Wollongong.
Yeah, which is
and so going to even South Sydney, it was just different. The other people practicing, I guess you could say the experience was different. The room was packed, so it's just that vibe. Enjoyed that. And the pace of the classes as well, strong, but you weren't rushed through everything. You had time to settle in. Who I did the classes with, Chris. Actually, I never did any of Janine's classes before doing the training, and she led the training most of the time. So that was a new experience coming into that as well. Like I wasn't sure what her technique was or how she did her classes. But as an instructor for the teacher training, amazing, and understood everybody and was able to give us space to dive into whatever it is we had to manage different points during the training.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool. And so you came out of the training, and then obviously like you're teaching yoga now. So like what was the process of like getting into teaching, and how did you find, I guess, like the experience of, I guess, a teacher training and then the experience of being a teacher?
Yes.
Because that's like, for many people, like I did my teacher training and it took me about a year to start teaching, and I used to be a personal trainer, so I had experience. But I remember teaching versus ITT was like pretty different.
Yeah. I had every intention going into the training that I was going to teach in the end.
Yeah.
I didn't push it too hard, just was going to see what would happen, but straight away after coming out of training, the studio which I was practicing at, the Wollongong Yoga Centre, their main teacher, who also did her training, at the same, I think she did it the same place as me. We went overseas for about 2 months.
Yeah.
So I was covering all of her classes for 2 monents,
Sweet.
straight out of training. So,
but that's I reckon that's. I look back and I wish I'd done it.
Yeah.
I wish I'd done it.
It was excellent, and so the very first class I didn't know what I was doing. I turned up to practice and I was asked, "Oh, do you just want to take the class?" Okay, I'll do the first one.
Okay.
But there is that point as you're learning where you're always going to have bad nights, and everything that you do, you have those ones that don't go to plan and you beat yourself up about. But when you have to come back and teach the following night, like, I could dwell on this. All right, I'm just going to move on and keep growing. And how many jobs do you start that you're perfect at?
No.
Straight off,
never, definitely. And so obviously you're teaching, you started teaching for covers, and now you're teaching more and more. So like, we're doing this at North Side of the Hive, which is part of the yoga hive owned by Becky, who you work for. And I guess like that process of like teaching more and more, and sort of like coming more into that role of teaching. Like, what have you? I don't know, what have been the good bits and the bad bits, really? Like, obviously you said, like, learning to manage when you have a shit class, and then obviously you're teaching more classes, learning that ruminating on it ain't going to do shit because you've got to teach another class.
The thing that has started to shift, I noticed over the last couple of months, is moving away from both the sequences that I learned during training or what I picked up along the way, and starting to bring my own sort of elements to the classes, my own transitions, different types of sequencing, and then exploring that, and being more thoughtful about the way that you construct the class. So you've got your counter poses for everything, and that's sort of just going a little bit deeper that way now. And everything is different. Sometimes they're fast and flowing, and other times it's still settling in and going slower and moving deeper.
No, I think it's definitely, that's probably the transition where you could be taught. I remember when I first started teaching, I got offered a teacher's place and they wanted me to teach the Ashtanga primary series, like pose for pose, no deviation, and I'd said, I don't want a job. And that was me, like, I need that sense of, because I mean, I came from a personal training background. I know how to not hurt people. I know kind of like general, like pretty good anatomy from other things as well. And it's this thing of like, as long as there's certain structure you're following in the sense of like, that it's logical, then I think it's pretty open to what you want to do. Like in advanced practice, like, something like the yoga, like the Hatha Tantric stuff, and the advanced like pranayama and Kriya and Kundalini stuff, you got to be pretty by the book, because it's like things have to happen in a certain sequence, and if you do them in the wrong sequence, you end up like fucking yourself up in like an energetic way. But I think as far as like asana goes, I think it's pretty open, really, as long as there's some sort of logic and structure and direction and like purpose to it, then I think you pretty much can do whatever. And that's way more interesting. Like for every studio you went to that taught like yoga, taught the Ashtanga primary series, it's just like, where's the humanity in that? Like, where's the creativity in that? Like, where's the excitement in that? And I think that's the big thing. Like I see when I teach on ITTs is like basically people being themselves, I suppose. Teaching like teach you. Like don't try, like maybe we have people that we look up to, like maybe like as a male we might go up to Werner, he's really strong, or it might be someone else who we really look up to. But I think ultimately it's like, you just teach yourself, and then people are going to dig it, and you're going to have people that like love you teaching yourself, and then you're going to be like people who just don't dig it.
Yeah, that's right. You can't keep everyone happy. But that's like also important to continue doing classes and doing different teachers' classes, and then finding elements of everybody that you practice or learn from. Like I want to incorporate bits and pieces. I want to incorporate that into my...
Yeah, I like that. I like that. Like, that doesn't really work for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's probably my downfall, man. It's like I teach, and then I'm surfing, and I'm doing all these other things, and then I really want to go to other teachers' classes, and then I'm just like, I'm tired, man. I'm tired. Like, I've got to yoga classes all day long, but you know. But yeah, I always want to go to, and it's always funny, I'm always riding this line where I want to go to a class, and I'll go to a class, and I'll just surf for 3 hours, and I'm like,
you're not really there.
not really doing it properly. And then I'm like, I want to rest, but then I really want to like, because then someone will have a cool transition. I'll do that. Like I remember going to a class and there was a transition I do a lot that a teacher did, and I just was like, I'll take that.
Yeah,
like I'm straight taking it. You know, like, and it came from doing classes. Like I say, if I was to change something about my practice, would be probably setting aside a little bit more energy to go and do other classes. Yeah, it's like my downfall.
Yeah, I liken that to that saying, I always forget how it goes. Is it you're the average of the 5 people you keep closest to? Yeah. So I feel I treat that the same with yoga practice. Well, I'm on the average of the 5 people that I practice with the most.
Yeah, so going to find the teachers that you're really into. Yeah. I think too, like, so also, no, I guess it's like you've helped me write, so, bring to life some children's books. So I mean, it's quite interesting probably to ask you about that experience, I suppose. Like how was the experience? Like you obviously you have knowledge in illustrating, and you work in graphic design and things like this in your current role, and you do projects for other people as well. So yeah, I guess like how did you find the process of a book? Because I think when I first approached you about it, I remember you said you'd done a cookbook or something with someone.
Yep.
And then, the process, I guess, of like bringing the book to life.
Yeah, there's nothing more daunting and scary than staring at 16 blank pages waiting for you to draw the pictures for. And each time, each book that I've worked on with you, I'm like, okay, how do we start? We've got to get some sort of base going, just get the ball rolling. And I'm sure you noticed that as well, like it was slow in the beginning. I might send you 1 picture, I might send you 2, and then all of a sudden, you're getting 5 or 6, then the whole book's there and we're refining.
Yeah, you get a feel for like what it's going to look like. But I always think like from a creative, because I mean like I would love to have your capacity to make the images. Like I remember when I first had the ideas of the book, like I did art school at high school, and I can draw to like a reasonable level, but and had in my head of drawing all the images, and then I just was like, it's never going to be as good. And you got to get in a situation where you're trying to do everything, which is like, that's my problem. It's like I'm kind of trying to do everything, and it is not good. And yeah, it was more kind of someone who was specialized in something that I wasn't specialized. So for me, it was really just like when I wrote the kids' books, it was more the sort of thing of experiencing, I guess, like what the meaning of the book was about. So like, a lot of my books, had interactions where they came from dreams and experiences in dreams, and so the way I experienced them was more kind of like the dialogue, and not the images themselves, but like the feeling, like what the message was in the book. And then I guess when I wrote them, I wrote each page with an idea of the image. But it was interesting because I knew to have it turn out correctly, I also kind of had to have this thing where someone else had to kind of like birth the image. So I had the pit, like I remember talking to another person who had written the children's book, and they seemed pretty like Nazi on the images. They're like, I want a picture of this with this, and it has to be exactly that, it has to be that, it has to be this color, it has to be that. And I remember thinking about it, and I was like, man, that would have sucked for the person.
But I think we have a very similar approach to getting work done, where you just get it done. And your brief, your guide was good, it was clear, but I think there was enough allowance there for me to do my thing. And I think you only, the changes you suggested were so minimal. Like it's like
it was still subtle. It was more kind of like the overview of like the kids' books were. it's kind of like, you know, like I never thought of Tommy being a rat.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But then I was like, Tommy's definitely a rat. Yeah. Like I was like, Tommy's a rat, you know, it's his tantrums and he's a rat. And then it was just little things like that where, you know, Tommy goes to yoga, you know, and he always does up dog and down dog, but it was also kind of just little things of where, yeah, I guess I had to kind of be like what was important to the story and what wasn't. And in the end, it's like the image communicates a meaning, and the meaning can be communicated in many ways. It doesn't have to be communicated in one way.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was kind of like interesting, giving it over to someone and being like, okay, this is kind of like the meaning I want. Here's some ideas of like what I think could be that meaning. But then there were things you sent back to me that I realised were better than, you know, I remember in the latest one with Arias, the dog, and I was like hell-bent for a while on like 2001 A Space Odyssey,
Mm-hmm.
the big monolith. And I remember having this in my head. And then I remember you sent me something back that, and I think, what was it? It was the dogs kind of like, you know, they dropped all their sticks.
Mm-hmm.
And they weren't sniffing each other's bums, and they were kind of just looking.
Yeah.
Which was the meaning. That's what the meaning was.
Mm-hmm.
And I just realized it's not going to work. Like, that works. But what I wanted to do didn't.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was interesting, like that sort of thing of understanding what was going to work, what wasn't going to work. But I always thought, like, from the other person's point of view, of the creative aspect, like you're saying, like when you came up with the images, like how does it happen to you? You know, like for me, dreams impact me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know, do you sit around and sort of think, or do you draw little sketches, or?
I just start doing it. Just anything at all, a line on the page is all it needs to be. I think there's that, it can be dangerous when you start trying to look at too much inspiration, because then you don't get any work done. Sometimes you have to be your own inspiration. Just start doing it. Doesn't matter if it works out or not. That's a start. From now you can just go from there.
Yeah, definitely. I think so. So what would you be like, I guess, like now that you're, you know, you're teaching more, and obviously you still have your other work with design and graphic design,
Mm-hmm.
and what you're doing on the side as well. But what do you see for the future, I suppose?
Yeah, I've already planned to do a little bit more teacher training in the future. So next year I've got a few things, more just thoughts at the moment, working towards. But I want to do both. I want to teach and I want to keep designing. I want to get more into music as well. So I don't do anything unless I'm feeling it. I don't practice. I don't try to force any practice at all. So music, for example, is one that often just takes the back seat. I do it when I'm feeling it, because then I'm going to put all my passion into it.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, I guess they're all different forms of creative outlet. Just always got thoughts, always got pictures in my head. So just putting them out there, whether that be, you know, the art or designing, or the pictures can be sequences for yoga practice. Yeah, just turning these thoughts into actions.
And obviously too, I remember like looking at stuff. I think I had this conversation with you about like you're obviously into like eating well and food and things like this, and I made the joke like you need to do your own like, cookbook, which I think you should do your own cookbook personally. Like, just sell it at yoga studios or something. But yeah, obviously like that's a big part of it. So obviously, does that just go hand in hand with the yoga thing, like the eating stuff, or is it something you've always sort of been quite passionate about?
Yeah, cooking is, and isn't that funny when you first move out of home and you get sick because you can't eat well?
Yeah.
And then you start figuring out, okay, these are the foods I need to eat. But the cooking stuff that I'm into, it's easy stuff. I don't want to tell people, oh, you need to eat better. I want to say, look, this is an easy way to do it. Try this recipe out. It took like 5 minutes. So yeah, easy to do. Stuff that I like cooking with foods that can do multiple things. So I keep a lot of raw ingredients that can, you know, can be anything from a bread to a pancake to whatever else.
Yeah, I think too that's a big one. I'm definitely guilty of. Yeah, man. I mean, I need to put more effort into cooking. I've got this sort of like routine, and it's like I'm a little bit, it's one of those things if I was to change something, it's like eating is just to like keep me alive so I can do things.
Yeah.
Which is like, it's a little bit limiting. It's something I always go back and forwards with. You're like, all right, man, you need to give a shit about this. Like, this is an important part of life. And this is just the thing I got to do so I can like go surfing all day. And so, I've always had this attitude where it's just this thing, and if I didn't have to do it, it would be sweet. But it's interesting, like as I'm getting older, I'm like, oh no, this is actually like, there's a lot to it. Like, you know, I think even, you know, there's studies that show, you know, if you prepare your own food and how you think about your food when you're making it and how you think about your food when you're eating it, and they all obviously have implications on how the food operates as well as the food.
Yeah, right, yeah.
You know, so stuff like, you know, if you eat something and you're in a really bad mental state and you're feeling really bad about it, the implications of it are worse than if you were not negative about it. So I always find that's quite interesting, like how you feel about it as well obviously has like a pretty big impact on it. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, but you want to go back and touch on those other things, the other interests that I have. I just realized they're all some sort of form of meditation for me as well. So cooking particularly, like kneading a dough, you can do that forever, and it's just good. You know, I think you probably channel some of those emotions and stuff into the making, into the process.
So as I said, it probably leads us like, so more towards the end, but also probably into the meditation thing. So, because you talk about it like being a meditation, I think one of the things I see a lot when I teach meditation sometimes in workshops is people have this idea of like, okay, you know, I'm meditating.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm meditating, that's what meditation is. And it's interesting, like you're talking about, oh, you know, when I knead the dough, it's meditative, or when I'm cooking, or when, you know, I'm going to yoga, or I'm working with music, or things like this. So, and you say it's like very meditative. So obviously, like, what's your view on things like meditation and, you know, I guess the use of meditation in daily life, and especially something I'm seeing more and more of is people who are time poor. So there's a lot of time poor people who, I guess, don't think of ways to get meditation into their lives because they have this idea that if they can't sit on a mat for 10 or 15 minutes, then there's no point.
Yeah, I think one of my best forms of, if you want to call it meditation, is just laying on the grass, looking up through the leaves at the sky as the clouds float past, and just doing nothing. You know, that point where you almost feel like you're floating there as well. So, and you don't have to do that for long. A couple of minutes feels good. Get some sun, and you go about the day. But the same as, I guess, any sort of action where I feel like I'm just fully channeled into that one thing. That's just the point of focus. It's just a nice break from everything else that's going on.
So I think you could have touched on the key things, because I think people have this idea of like the posture and things like this, but what you're talking about is having like a focus and holding that focus on something for a sustained period, and by doing that you know are not sort of following the moving mind like you used to, and because you're not following the moving mind like you used to, it's not throwing you around like it used to, and you know everything starts to become more calm and relaxed and clear. And then the other one that's interesting, you talked about the looking at the sky. So in stuff I study in Dzogchen, that's actually a primary meditation technique. So it's called open presence or sky gaze. And basically that's pretty much you sit or lie and you just relax with your eyes open, and you don't really do anything. You just relax your awareness on the open space. So normally what happens to people when they meditate is there's always an object. So like, say if I am meditating, I'll be focused on my breathing or my body, or there'll be a point of focus. And so there's always this point of attachment. There's something of which I'm attaching my awareness to in order to anchor myself. So in open presence, you're basically just doing that on space itself. And it's really interesting, like it's seen as, I normally tell people there was one meditation which was like the meditation, especially for like lucid dreaming and dreaming, it's open something like that, because it's so simple, but it trains the mind out of attachment.
Yep.
Because you can't quite attach. You obviously see the clouds coming and going, but the situation that you're focusing on is transient.
Yeah, you're not focusing on that, they just pass.
They just pass, yeah. And there might be an interesting one, but it's like, it's not like, say, if I had a candle and I was like, or I was making like, like over and over again. It's this thing where it's kind of like, everything's constantly changing and you're kind of relaxing the awareness on the space itself, and then that relaxed awareness of the space itself is having this effect on the mind where you're naturally doing that. I think what I find is I naturally start doing that in my life. Like events, like there's the cloud, oh, that's that event, oh, there it is, and then it's going, and it's kind of like, and I think realizing like that's kind of like what life is like. It's just like events that are passing. Yeah, definitely. So what would be your advice to, I guess, like people, because like some people who listen to this may be yoga people, some people might not be, some people might be thinking about yoga, some people probably have like an idea of, especially as a male teaching yoga, they might be like, yoga's for chicks. Like, what would be your advice to people who, I guess, were, either maybe wanting to start or probably wanting to go deeper? Like, what would be some little bits of wisdom that you've learned so far?
There are so many different teachers, so many different varieties of yoga. There's something for everybody. So if you don't know what you're going to enjoy, try them all, find one that sits with you, and then that's where the journey starts. It's only going to get deeper from there. So the more you get into it, the more open you are to other options, other styles, anything like that. It doesn't really matter. If it's all about just that, similar to what you were saying with how do the illustrations start. They start because you draw that first line. You got to take that first step. If you're interested about it, you're already beginning. So yeah, just take the next step, go further, go along to a class, let it build, and it's only going to benefit you in some way, if not now, sometime in the future. Those the teachings that you learn, everything you pick up, it's going to come back and it'll be assistance.
Awesome. Well, thanks for your time, man.
Cheers.
Yeah. We'll see you later. That camera worked.